Breaking news via the internet and social media has changed how readers receive their news today. It's fast, ever-changing, and often rich with multimedia, although it also creates potential ethical conflicts. As part of an APME study, the Sioux City Journal gathered readers and community leaders to talk about local media habits, trust, and news sources. They walked through a breaking news scenario step by step, discussing the role of media companies and employees as the news developed.
This morning, one of the newspaper's advertising salespeople came over to the newsroom and said that last night his son on his Facebook page said that there was a rumor spreading that there's going to be a fight today at the school. The newspaper has reported a couple of briefs, a couple short stories on minor fights, and there was a tire slashing episode at the school that nobody was arrested. They don't really know exactly what happened, but again, because there seemed to be a series of things happening, it has gotten a small amount of coverage. Is this a story? Is this something the Journal should cover?
I think it's newsworthy, but it demands good reporting. And in this case, I don't think it should be posted online until the reporter has had an opportunity to wait for that school official to come out of that meeting and get the school's perspective. Because this is the opportunity for the school to say that we're aware of this situation, this is the situation as we're aware of it, these are the facts, and we are doing this, this, and this to ensure the safety and well-being of our students. And I think it's reckless to run with the story until such time that the school's been given that opportunity.
I think that obviously from a paper's perspective, they have to balance the idea that people have a right to information, but at the same time, we need to look, and like it or not, media outlets, in my mind, now have, because of the changing world of media, have the responsibility similar to ours in protecting public safety because they impact it whether they like it or not. And so when we talk about ethics in terms of this conversation, that has to be a stronger consideration than it was prior to the internet and so forth. And to me, the priority should be public safety, and reporting should come second. In other words, the release of information second to that, so that the schools and the police department have to be the primary consideration.
Go ahead.
One other piece of the puzzle then, in the way the Journal's website is set up, is the story goes on, and then there's a comment section. And unfortunately, too many people in this community consider a comment placed to their part of the news. And so that can help snowball the negative effects and negative impacts very quickly, and can help exacerbate the situation even further. And it's, because anybody can put on there anything they want to, whether it's true, false, or whatever, and there's no responsibility for it.
The question is that unfortunately we live in a world that to ignore what you're seeing out there in that whole blogosphere, the Facebook, would be not very responsible. So it is the responsibility of that reporter to take it to the police, to take it to the schools and say, we may have a situation here. You may not be aware of it, you may be aware of it, but this is something not to be ignored.
The Journal will lose, in my mind, any paper will completely lose their validity in terms of the issue of trust. They become a non-entity if I start, whether it's the newspaper or the internet, start skipping pages because I know that they're anonymous blogs or information that I can't depend on to be well-researched and true.
We also asked them how they consume news, how they get breaking news information, and what the expectations are for media companies.
I think that Facebook and Twitter can obviously give you some set of sources to rely upon, at least to go out and investigate stories. But I would say that Facebook and Twitter, it's social networking, and so it's up to the minute, it's instantaneous, and I don't know if that should be the most reliable source that you use from day to day. I myself, as an individual consumer and on a personal use, I go out and investigate those further. And as a business, we also do that. St. Luke's is actually on Twitter and Facebook, and so we're constantly going out and reading the Journal's website or reading your Facebook and Twitter blogs and using those to go and look for more information. So we're using those, both professionally and personally, I guess.
I work for a college. One of the things that a lot of our instructors are trying to instill in students is just because you see it online does not mean it's true, does not mean it's accurate. When I see something online, the first question in my mind is, where did that come from? What's the online source? Is it a credible online source or isn't it?
To me, the media is, frankly, a tool to get the word out that we need to get out, not just on an ongoing basis, but during emergencies and when people need to know things. And we realize that we can be a tool for the media. And so it's a working relationship, it's a good relationship, and we have to have that trust in place that we just spoke of so that we understand what each other needs, and also we need to be wary of, and I think we've gotten much more educated in the last even 20 years in terms of what the public expects from us, and we're much more sensitive to what people need in terms of information and how we can get that to them.
In a second forum, readers sounded off on the differences between social and traditional media, as well as the importance of accuracy.
You talked about opinions a couple times, and I know you said, hey, I'd love to know what people think about it.
Right.
You don't just want the news. How do those two, there's a boundary there for us, because we
Right.
get news on one side of the fence and opinion on the other. I guess when you consume news,
Mm-hmm.
where do you want to see a line between those two, or what do you think?
Well, I think that most people understand that there's a line between it, like Carrie was mentioning during the session, that people understand that there's two different segments. There's a social media segment, and then there's your standard print type segment. So people are going to look at the social media and see that as, hey, this might be somebody's opinion, or this might be something that's more breaking, and not necessarily a newsworthy type event, but more of an informational type event. So if those two are segmented out, I think that they can truly understand, and people already understand it, but if you segment it even further and say, hey, this portion over here is for the social media type people, and this here is for more like the traditional type. So that way you can separate them, and people understand that difference.
Twitter is a looser form of media and a looser form of social media. Twitter is random thoughts, random opinions. I think you need to be careful about the credibility of it still, since it's coming from an organization as opposed to an individual. But at the same time, it's a more forgiving area than a post to a web page. I think that Twitter is considered very conversational and not factual. Not that facts don't come across that way, but a Twitter is maybe going to be a link to a specific website with the facts and the details. Your tweet is going to be much more conversational.
I think what people are looking for is, if you make a mistake, say, I've made a mistake, and just be upfront about it. Here's what I'm going to do to take care of it. And I think that we've lost some of that. I think you trust people. The trust is always there, even if there's a mistake. You shouldn't just quit trusting people because they made a mistake. You quit trusting people when they start making that same mistake over and over.